It's Tuesday, June 9th, 2020. Digital Trends Live is about to start. Here are some of the topics we're covering on today's episode of the show. We have some updates on how tech companies are responding to multiple issues, including a statement from IBM about facial recognition technology and an update to the Apple COVID-19 app. We'll also have our own Ronan Glon joining the show from France, where he'll fill us in on some developments in the world of automotive technology, including Lamborghini entering esports. We'll also have Winnie Sun of Sun Group Financial on the show to help us understand the financial landscape that we're all facing right now, including questions regarding more stimulus checks. And as part of our Who's Got Game segment with Full Screen, we're going to be joined by the multi-talented and incredibly positive Will Power to talk about his new site and new music coming out this week. All of that and more on today's episode of Digital Trends Live. Hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button. We're live here every single day of the week, bringing you trending tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and so much more. I'm Greg Nibbler. Let's get you started off here with some trending news at the top. So here is an announcement that has come out from IBM, and it is this. They will no longer be developing or researching facial recognition technology. That is a pretty huge statement and declaration by IBM. They've certainly been at the forefront with a lot of different kinds of technology, but facial recognition is something that a lot of firms have been researching for years. But there have been problems with it, and this is why they're saying they're stopping right now. So in a letter addressed to Congress, the CEO, Arvind Krishna, said, and this was to the Justice in Policing Act of 2020 in support of that, the statement was this: IBM firmly opposes and will not condone uses of any technology, including facial recognition technology offered by other vendors for mass surveillance, racial profiling, violations of basic human rights and freedoms, or any purpose which is not consistent with our values and principles of trust and transparency. So this comes on the heels of a lot of news for actually multiple years about facial recognition technology and some of the issues with it, some of the systemic biases that are actually programmed into it, into the artificial intelligence that utilizes it. Part of the problem, there's a lot that you can research on this, but part of the problem is, honestly, it's a lot of white men who programmed it, and so it just inherently has had biases associated with this, and that's caused a lot of problems. There's been multiple studies about this, so IBM now saying that they are just getting out of it, at least for right now, until they can figure out some of these issues. There was a study in December 2019 by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which found empirical evidence for the existence of a wide range of inaccuracy across demographic differences in the majority of the current face recognition algorithms. So again, it's definitely been an issue. So this is IBM in association with what's going on right now, making a stand and saying that they are getting out of it until, at least for now, getting out of facial recognition software as a whole. So we've got more information about that at digitaltrends.com. I expect there's going to be some more information about this, and we'll see what some other industry groups say as well, but that's definitely something to follow along with at digitaltrends.com. Continuing on here with your trending news, talking about some other updates in association with COVID-19 and the pandemic that we are facing right now. Google Maps has made another update, and they've been consistently making updates in association with finding different places for testing, but now as we see people transitioning back into the workforce and actually using public transportation and utilizing that, they're going to be putting out relevant alerts that can help you with that. Things like letting you know how crowded a station is. So this is relying on people who turn on their Google Maps history application on there. So this is something that voluntarily people do, and that helps them track this thing. So it'll have live data like crowdedness is actually what it's going to be called. They've got things where they'll tell you if a face covering is required depending on where you go. They'll tell you if different lines are canceled because of COVID-19 or certain other regulations and restrictions that are happening on there. So this is Google Maps again with that update. So this is going to be rolling out to Indonesia, Israel, the Philippines, South Korea, and the U.S. as it starts, and then it's expected that it's going to be going out to other places too, and we'll see how those continually update and provide more information, but that's something that Google Maps will be providing. So if you're using mass transit in any of those countries, that is something that you can now take a look at. Continuing on here with updates, Apple also has updated its COVID-19 screening tool. So Apple came out with this, I believe it was back in March or April, ancient history now at this point, but it's been out there for a while, and this is a self-screening tool that they have, and it's very similar to what the CDC has in other organizations, but it's one more place you can go, and they've actually put some updates out on that, which now you can send your information to the CDC if you voluntarily, it would be anonymous, but you can send in your symptom and health info to help them keep updated and again, kind of track where things are going with this, if we're getting a resurgence and all of that. But it's another thing that you can do to participate to help out with public health. And this is both on their website and on the app that you can get for in the iOS store. So it's just another thing. This isn't. This is separate from the tool that they created with Google, just to remove any confusion on that side. But this is something that Apple's put out there. So again, sharing anonymously your health info with the CDC to help screen. So you can check out more about that at digitaltrends.com. Let's keep you up to date with trending news, and that is what we're talking about right now with Sony. So last week, Sony was scheduled to have their event on June 4th. It's the future of gaming. This is their big PlayStation 5 event that we've been expecting and hoping for a while. They moved it last week in association with the protests because of the fact that they said other voices were more important to be heard. Well, they are going to continue on with the event now on this Thursday, and it's going to be at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, where they're going to showcase some actual gameplay footage. So we don't know if they're going to show the actual console. I really hope they do, but if you watch this show, you know I really want to see the console. But if beyond that, what they are going to be showing, and they clarified this in the PlayStation blog, is that they're going to show some actual game footage. Now, the broadcast is going to be 1080p, 30 frames per second. But they said the trailers of what they're going to be showcasing, they will then upload to YouTube, where they'll be available in 4K. And we see right there, that's the actual controller. We've seen that, so that's the update to the DualShock controller, the new one that they have. I believe it's DualSense, and I'm blanking on that, but we've got the details at digitaltrends.com. But yeah, that's the new controller itself. But then that gameplay footage is going to be pretty interesting to see. We saw some PlayStation 5 footage already during Unreal Engine when they had their showcase of some of the ray tracing graphics, and they said that this was actually for a PlayStation 5 or used for a PlayStation 5. It's just a demo, but it's still really impressive, actually, when you watch this. I encourage you, if you haven't seen it yet, we've got it at Digital Trends, to see some of the things they showcase there. So I'm hoping we get to see more things like that from actual games that could be coming out. What could the games be? I mean, maybe they'll showcase some of their standalones. We don't know, but either way, it's going to be pretty exciting to see what they have. I want to know. I mean, if you have a guess on what games you think they're going to showcase, let me know, because I'm all down to speculate on that kind of stuff. So we'll see. But that's again coming up on Thursday, 1 p.m. Pacific, the PlayStation 5, the Future of Gaming event. Find out the details on what we expect at digitaltrends.com. Continue on with the trending news. Let's talk about Apple. Now, we've talked a lot about events that got pushed and changed, and that includes the Worldwide Developers Conference. Well, now that's going to be happening here this month, and we are now receiving word, and we believe this is coming from some rumors from Mark Gurman at Bloomberg, according to this, he's an industry analyst, said that Apple is going to announce that they are ditching Intel chips for their computers. Now, they already do that with for iPhones and iPads. They use ARM, and the rumor is that they're going to be doing this too. So this is a huge moment, because the ARM chips have actually been very successful for iPads and iPhones. If you're one of those users, you know they're very fast. They've gotten some very good reviews on these. So if they do make that shift, it's big news for Intel, clearly, but shifting to ARM for Macs could give them a performance boost. And we've got the complete analysis of this at the website, and it goes into some pretty big details as far as what's happening. But overall, just to give you kind of the broad picture, this means potentially faster Macs gives them a competitive advantage. And it's a big news because we'll have to see how Intel responds. That's the other part of this too. It's more competition for Intel, and we'll see what they come back with. But that's for WWDC 2020, what we're thinking. So we've got, again, all of that. If you want to get into the really get in depth with it, with the computing, you can certainly find that at the website. But if you want just kind of an overall broad picture, you can see that as well. Continuing on here with trending. All right, hello everyone. Little bit of a slip up there with the internet. You know what? It happens sometimes, but that just proves that we're live. That's why you want to tune into the show. So hit that subscribe button. If I didn't tell you that at the top, I usually do. That's a reminder. You want to be part of the show. Continuing on. This is just cool. So this has to do with an astronaut who is also now something else, the first person to go to the bottom of the sea and do both of these things. So this is Kathy Sullivan, who was the first American woman to complete a spacewalk. She has now descended 35,000 feet to the bottom of the ocean. That's to Challenger Deep. So that's the bottom of the ocean, 6.9 miles down, 11,000 meters beneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean. So she has now accomplished both, which according to EYOS Expeditions, which is funding this, she is the first human to have been in space and at full ocean depth. That's badass. So this is all part of a study that they were doing. It's called the Ring of Fire Expedition, organized by a few different organizations to do this for deep sea exploration. And I'm assuming that we're going to be we're expected to get the first 4K video of it down there. So there's a lot that's going to be coming out of this. They haven't released a ton of it yet because this just happened on Sunday. But still, congratulations to Kathy Sullivan. That's just cool. First person in space and to the bottom of the ocean. It's kind of both the places I want to go. And again, you can follow along right there. So taking a look. This is utilizing the same sub that James Cameron has been working with. So this is part of their expeditions. And yeah, pretty cool stuff. So read more about that at digitaltrends.com.
Hey, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It's now time for the product of the day.
All right, the product of the day is this. We're going to video games. We're all gaming a lot more. Why not stock up on some? How about Borderlands 3, which is available for Xbox right now for $13. Normally, this is a $60 game. It is on sale for $13. If you have not played Borderlands 3, and I am one of those people, but I've been wanting to, this is a good reason to do it, it's awesome. It's what a lot of people have been playing. There's all kinds of different things that you do with it. It's, the post-apocalyptic world. Clearly, this looks just fun. You've got some cultists. You got some weird monsters. You got some mutants. What else do you want there? And apparently the twins. But this is what we're talking about. So this game right now, Borderlands 3, and this is the Xbox version, available for $13. I'll tell you what I've been doing. Actually, this is just completely aside. When I see some of these sales on video games, I actually stock up on them. So if it's on sale for like $12.99, you're like, well, buy it. Even if you're not going to play it now, play it later on. That way you have a game to go to when you finish your next one. But yeah, it's $47 off right now, normally $60. And the way that you get this deal is you follow that link that's right there on the page. So it's right below me, depending on where you're watching this, or we've got a link to it, but just type that in, take you directly to it, and that way you can get that for $12.99. I mean, why not? You can't afford not to play it at $12.99. All right, so that's the product of the day. And I want to thank everybody for joining us. We've got lots coming up here on the show. We've got Will Power, we've got Winnie Sun, we've got Ronan Glon to talk about automotive tech. But up next, we've got our own Riley Winn, our video game expert, to talk about Star Wars, which is one of his favorite series. He's going to be talking about Star Wars games and what kind of ranking them, walking through some of them. So that's next. You won't want to miss Riley's report on Star Wars. Stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live.
If a movie becomes a blockbuster, chances are they're going to ride that wave of success with a video game. Some tie into the movie storyline, and others explore a universe beyond what you saw on the silver screen. The biggest crossover king has to be the Star Wars franchise. Racing games, flying games, even an MMO. Now, we're not going to rank the movies because everybody knows Empire Strikes Back is obviously number one, but we will tell you our favorite games from the galaxy far, far away. I'm Riley Winn with Digital Trends, and here's a list of our favorite Star Wars video games.
Let's see what this saber can do.
First up, Star Wars Jedi Knight, Dark Forces 2. The first-person shooter craze exploded in the mid-90s, and Star Wars Dark Forces was right there amongst the best. Its sequel kept you in the shoes of Kyle Katarn, rebel and force-sensitive gunslinger who traveled the galaxy blasting everything in his path. Oh, and did we mention first-person lightsaber combat? You could choose the light side or the dark side, a revolutionary gameplay mechanic for its time. It doesn't look so great 20 plus years later, but before the industry was overwhelmed with first-person shooters, this was one of the few that played extremely well, and it even had full cinematic cutscenes. Super Star Wars on Super Nintendo. The Super Nintendo was the exclusive home to the original trilogy 16-bit games, and boy were SNES gamers lucky. Classic side-scrolling action and sequences from the films made these three games an absolute joy to play. Getting to switch between Luke, Han, and Leia was everything we hoped it would be. Well, at least on Super Nintendo. Modern games might overshadow these classics, but you can check out Super Star Wars on the PlayStation Store to see what gamers in 1992 were really excited about.
This is it!
Star Wars Rogue Leader, Rogue Squadron 2. One of the most famous scenes in not only Star Wars canon, but also in film history, is the trench run from A New Hope. The exhilarating space battle headlined this excellent GameCube game at the console's launch, in addition to several others from the movies like The Battle at Hoth, The Fight on Endor, and many more. It's easy to be lost in the fun of using a lightsaber or a blaster in most Star Wars games, but if you ever wanted to fly an X-Wing and face off against TIE fighters, this is the Star Wars flying game to check out.
Guess you're not worth an appearance.
My patience is wearing thin, Father.
Star Wars The Old Republic. It's a Star Wars MMO. This game was released in 2011 to mediocre reviews, but has steadily improved and is still getting expansions to this day. The 7th expansion came out in October of 2019. Taking place thousands of years before the Skywalker saga, this MMO pitted the Jedi, the Sith, and various other factions against each other in unique class-based stories. Want to be a Sith Lord? Go ahead. Want to be a Jedi struggling to keep the peace? Sure. Want to be a bounty hunter taking advantage of the war and corruption in the galaxy? Be my guest. Gamers want tons of options and worlds to explore, and for us Star Wars fans, this game had it all. Now all we want is for the game to come to consoles. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. The most recent Star Wars game on this list might end up being the best when this is all said and done. Jedi Fallen Order is an action-adventure game inspired by the Batman Arkham series. Don't expect to just go in and swing away with your lightsaber. Every enemy is deadly, and you have to prepare and time your attacks. You play as Cal Kestis, a Jedi who survived Order 66 and grew up to take on the Empire. Of course, we eventually know how this is going to end, but let's forget about that for a second. The combat is fluid and challenging, and the exploration is a blast. In many ways, this is the Star Wars action game we thought we'd never see.
This is Lord Vader.
Star Wars Battlefront 2, the original. No, not EA's Star Wars Battlefront 2 loot box boogaloo, we're talking about the OG Battlefront 2, by the defunct Pandemic Studios. Massive worlds, spaceflight, and every single hero and villain you could possibly think of. Best part? You didn't have to pay to unlock everything. Remember those days? The single player mode was just long enough to not be too lengthy, and its multiplayer was one of my favorite games to play with friends at the time. In fairness, after the loot box debacle and several updates, the recent Battlefront 2 by EA has turned out to be a pretty decent game. In many ways, it's a modern and beautifully made version of the original Battlefront 2. So yeah, we really do like that game too. It just loses points for all the problems it had at launch.
I'm sure you're real close friends.
Knights of the Old Republic. This series inspired the gameplay of the amazing Mass Effect series and was the direct precursor to the Old Republic MMO. Taking place during the Galactic Civil War between the Jedi and the Sith, in Knights of the Old Republic, you travel the galaxy with your trusty droid, your brave Wookiee friend, and your Force-sensitive companions as you try to unravel the mystery behind your traumatic memory loss. Okay, fine, none of this is original, but the gameplay is fantastic. The turn-based mechanics are approachable and the battles are fast-paced. The Force powers will make you feel like a badass, the quests are varied, and you go from planet to planet. Fans have clamored for a true third entry into the franchise. The Old Republic gave gamers a taste with its Knights of the Fallen Empire expansion. I mean, we're dying to jump back into the Ebon Hawk and kill some meatbags.
You show excellent logical skills for a meatbag.
We're sure that just like the latest film trilogy, everything was done correctly and no one will have any comments or critiques. Just kidding. Did we miss any games? Is your favorite game different than ours? Let us know, and no matter what Star Wars game you're playing, may the Force be with you. Until next time, I'm Winn with Digital Trends, and thanks for watching.
Hello, this is Digital Trends Live, and I'm Greg Nibbler. I appreciate everybody who's joining us, whatever platform you're watching on. Joining the conversations, let us know what you think about the topics that we are bringing up, and we like to keep you up to date across the entire spectrum of technology, and that includes automotive technology, and that's what we're going to be talking about right now with our own Ronan Glon joining us online from across the world to talk about what is happening with technology and a trend that we've seen in a lot of things, at least when it comes to I guess sports in general is going to esports, and now we're seeing that in the automotive side of things too. So, Ronan, tell us about what's going on here with Lamborghini.
Hi, Greg. Sim racing has become incredibly popular since the coronavirus-related lockdowns and other restrictions put an end to real racing. Most racing series for 2020 were either canceled or put on standby. But Lamborghini told me that it was looking at a sim racing series as early as last year. So it's not motivated by the lockdowns. It's kind of a natural extension of its racing activities. It launched a series called The Real Race, which is about a week old and will run until September. It's built on the Assetto Corsa Competizione gaming platform, which is kind of cool because most of its factory drivers actually use that game to train in the off-season, which is not something that I could have imagined even 10 years ago. So it's gotten really realistic. Anyone can participate in the series with basic gaming equipment, so you need a pretty good graphics card, a steering wheel, and pedal setup. You race a Huracan GT3 Evo, which is what Lamborghini races in real life. And the specs are identical to the one that you can actually race in real life. Engineers loaded a whole bunch of data to make sure the car handles the way it should. And the series is going to take racers on tracks like Monza, Spa, Suzuka, and Laguna Seca. So it's real cars, real tracks, and you might race against real pilots, but it's all done online. And what's cool is that the live final will take place at Lamborghini headquarters in Italy on September 18. So the people who, I think it's the 4 quickest racers, will get flown to Italy for the final, and the winner will actually get the chance to drive a real Lamborghini on real tracks. So it's a cool series. It's a cool way to kind of renew ties with racing while we can't race right now.
That's pretty awesome. Actually, getting to fly to Italy and race in an actual Lamborghini, or get to drive one anyway. Is this something? Just out of curiosity, is this something that you'll be doing?
No, I'm not much into racing, honestly. I don't have the experience or really the interest or even the equipment to participate in it. So I'm not going to be racing in it now.
Do you think that other manufacturers will start doing more things like this? Because you said this was a natural progression anyway, regardless of what's going on right now. Are other manufacturers kind of doing the same thing, or is this a template for that?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing quite a few other manufacturers getting into sim racing, just because it's kind of a way. I mean, even Lamborghini planned this out before the virus, obviously, but it's also kind of a way to keep enthusiasts interested in racing while they can't watch actual racing, because you can't go to a racetrack right now. Most, like I said, most series are on hiatus, so it's really kind of a way. And it also opens the brand to really anyone in the world, regardless of age or talent. I mean, you can race in this series if you're 12 or if you're 70 or if you live in Dubai or if you live in New York City. So it's kind of a way to engage with a wider audience. So I do think we're going to see more of this in the coming years.
Well, going from that, talking about actual cars that are going to be coming out, I know that there's another announcement, I believe it's from Volkswagen, about something that they've got coming up, or something that's a little bit more detailed. Can you fill us in the details on that?
Yeah, so as I think we've talked about on the show before, most car unveilings are either canceled or delayed because, again, of the coronavirus, which is still ongoing. But Volkswagen introduced the new GTI, the 8th generation GTI, online in March and detailed the car very recently. So we're not going to be getting the 8th generation Golf in the United States, but the GTI is the one that is coming to showrooms. And it's it's more high tech than it used to be, because that's kind of the inevitable shift that all automakers are going with their cars. You have a new digital cockpit with screens for the infotainment system. You have touch-sensitive surfaces, a digital instrument cluster that the driver can configure using buttons on the steering wheel, USB-C charging ports, and a whole bunch of driving aids, which you wouldn't think you would need in a car like the GTI, but they actually come in handy. And Volkswagen told me that it added driving aids because the customers actually want them. So where it gets tricky, and I spoke with the people who designed this car, they said where it gets tricky is balancing technology and heritage, because the GTI nameplate was introduced in '75. There's a whole lot of heritage. A whole lot of people think they know what a GTI should be and shouldn't be. Can't get too heavy, it can't get too big. So balancing that is very tricky. And ultimately, it's still a GTI. It's kind of old school in its design. You can see on the screen, you've got the red accents. You have the honeycomb inserts in the air dam up front. You've got plaid cloth upholstery inside, so it's still true to its roots. And we can't talk about the GTI without talking about its engine. It's got a turbocharged 2-liter 4-cylinder engine with 242 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque. And what's interesting is that, and we've talked about this on the show again, the manual transmission take rate is dropping in the United States alarmingly. There's only 1.1% of new cars were sold with a stick in 2019 last year. For the GTI, it's about 40%. Combined GTI and Golf R, about 40%. So Volkswagen did make a stick shift available again, which is really cool. So you have this kind of mix of tech, everything you could want in a modern car, and still a bit of heritage to balance it. It's one I'm really looking forward to driving.
That's kind of funny. I didn't realize it's that small of a percentage for manual transmissions anymore. Luckily, I still know how to do it. But that's pretty interesting stuff with the Volkswagen GTI. So again, we've got that too at digitaltrends.com. People can take a look at that, go into more detail about some of those specs on it. And as always, Ronan keeps us up to date with everything happening at Digital Trends, digitaltrends.com/cars. Ronan, thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Ronan Glon, right here on Digital Trends Live, talking about the world of automotive technology. That's always changing as well, and we've got so many details and articles up at Digital Trends. Something else that is changing is the financial status of a lot of people, and we're going to be talking about that next. We've got Winnie Sun joining us, and there's rumors about maybe another stimulus check. Is that going to be happening? What's the deal on that? Should we be planning for it? Should we not? We're going to tackle that and a bunch of other financial questions up next that affect all of us, with Winnie joining us. So stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Watching Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Again, thanks for joining us. Hit the subscribe button, share the show, let other people know about it, because we keep you up to date on all kinds of things, and that includes talking about finances. Certainly, this is a difficult, interesting, changing time for so many different people, and we've got a lot of questions in association with that, and that is why we're very fortunate to have from Sun Group Wealth Partners, Winnie Sun, who joins us to walk through all of this. Winnie, I'm really happy to have you here on the show today, and I think something that a lot of people, well, there's a few things a lot of people are talking about today, but definitely one that's been an ongoing question has to do with the stimulus checks. Are we going to get another round? What is the status of that? Can you help us out to answer that question?
Well, Greg, I have good news. I think a stimulus check is coming. The question is, when is it coming? We do know that the Democrats already passed the House with the HEROES Act, but unfortunately, it hasn't passed the Senate yet. And the Senate is saying, well, you know what? We don't love your plan because we feel like you're spending way too much money. I think one of the big sticklers right now is whether or not unemployment checks or that federal extra $600 federal relief will continue until January of 2021, which is what the HEROES Act initiated. But right now, the Republicans are saying no go on that. We instead want to consider things like a payroll tax deduction. We want to encourage people to go back to work and not stay at home and just collect unemployment. So sort of that is one of the big talking points. Plus, obviously Republicans want to spend a lot less. They're saying we don't want to spend more than $1 trillion. Democrats are asking for almost 3 times that. In addition, the Republicans are saying, look, don't get used to this. This is going to be the last round of stimulus funding for the coronavirus.
So that's kind of where we're at on that. So with it passing the House, what are the chances, I guess, of when something could get through the Senate?
Well, right now, we're probably expecting things in weeks, maybe even closer to a month rather than sooner. We were actually hoping that they would have some sort of resolution, a little bit of more clarity now so that we can see some sort of direction by Independence Day, by July 4th. But given that there's sort of that, it's still in very much heated discussions, and we're not getting a lot of information besides the HEROES tax. We're hearing things like another $1,200 check, which would be ideal. I think Americans need that extra $1,200 if your income is under $75,000. The HEROES Act also enabled each family to receive up to $6,000 for a family of 5. So that seems like the best route, because we know that there was a lot of problems as it pertains to getting funds from unemployment and different ways. the easiest way was to get money to Americans simply was through either direct deposit through the IRS or having that check sent out to you. And we're actually seeing probably they're not going to be sending out those Visa gift cards because that was a big mess.
Something else that I know, and I referenced this at the top, that a lot of people are talking about, going from the stimulus check and how that's playing out. Employment numbers coming out. We have some reports on that. Can you tell us what those numbers were and what that means, I guess, as a whole?
You know, it's really interesting. We know that almost 13% of Americans are currently unemployed and have filed for unemployment. That doesn't include a lot of people who weren't able to file for unemployment. But interesting enough, last week we saw about 2.5 million Americans going back to work. And so the government was very excited about this because these were numbers that weren't expected. And that really meant that, you know, now that states and cities are starting to open back up, people are actually going back to work. We're seeing a lot of these employees are going to be in the hospitality industry. So, you know, that certainly sort of puts a wedge in this stimulus package for sure, because they're saying, well, look at things are getting better. People are going back to work. They're making income. So therefore, we may not need to send so much money out to all these families because they can get back to work. So we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. There was a little bit of controversy of how accurate those numbers were, but simply, I think you're seeing in the markets too. The markets have reacted very, very well. In fact, the S&P has recovered what it lost, and simply because people feel like they're getting back to normal, whether that's premature or not. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things that could be discussed with that, but still that's what's showcasing there with the market. Something else that I know helped out a lot of businesses was the Paycheck Protection Program. Want to make sure I get it right. And I know something else was signed in with that. Can we talk about the state of that and what that means for businesses?
Yes, for businesses, they really want to pay attention to this because this is a big thing. On June 5th, actually, which is just last week, they passed the Paycheck Protection Program Flexibility Act, which in essence gives small and mid-sized businesses more flexibility on how they can use these funds in order to have most of those funds forgiven. So what previously you had to spend about 75% of that within 8 weeks, by the way, on payroll. Well, that became very difficult for those of us in New York City where, you know, you weren't going back to work yet. And a lot of businesses were like holding out this money. There's no way I can spend it on payroll in 8 weeks because my employees aren't working. Well, now the government's saying, well, we're going to allow you to go all the way to 24 weeks, if not the end of 2020. In addition, you don't have to use 75% towards payroll. It could be up to 60%. So the other 40% can be used for things like office rent or, you know, restaurant rent or whatnot, which is really hopeful for a lot of the cities that are in high rent districts. So it really gave business owners some breathing room. I got an email from my accountant for a lot of my clients, like, this is such good news. You know, it was very stressful before. Now it looks like they passed a new law that's going to give us some relief.
That's huge, yeah, for especially all those small businesses out there, like you said, that couldn't open anyway or spend the money. So that's actually great. So the Flexibility Act, June 5th, if you're a small business owner, definitely make sure that you're up to date on that one. A couple other things here, too, to ask you about when it comes to student loans. Another thing that people are worried about, things they have to pay where they don't have any finances coming in. What is the status on those, and should people be concerned about making sure they make those payments?
You know, Greg, it's really interesting. I was hoping there'd be more information out there to share with all of you on student loans because I feel like this is such a hot topic. A lot of our students come fall are going to be still at home, distance learning. So obviously that cost needs to be factored, but they're still paying high interest. They're still accumulating student debt. It's kind of a big mess. Unfortunately, the HEROES Act, which may or may not be passed, included some relief for student loans. That was a big one. We're really hoping to see that. In addition, for those seniors that had just graduated, do they submit their applications for student loans? Do they submit their applications for federal relief or all these scholarships and whatnot? The big unknown right now, unfortunately, is still stuck with the stimulus package. So really pay attention, those of you who this is something that is going to impact you. I really want to encourage you to pay attention to stimulus talks right now, because we're hoping some information will come out on this next package, which they're saying is going to be the last one as it pertains to student loan relief or postponing those payments.
Winnie, final question for you here. It has to do with something that I think a lot of us did, especially at the beginning of this, which was buying up gift cards from businesses that helps them, and then something you can use later on. What do you think people should be doing with those right now as kind of the economic landscape has changed and some businesses are shutting down, things have changed, they changed so quick. What should people be doing with those?
So really important, many of us went out and bought gift cards, myself included. And, what's really interesting about that is a lot of my clients are saying, like, should I be doing this? Does it make sense? Now, you got to look at it this way. If you're looking to buy this gift card to support the restaurant in your neighborhood that you absolutely love, then consider it almost like a donation. There's a good chance these restaurant gift cards might not be worth much, as well as retailer gift cards. So if you're in a situation where you're sitting on gift cards, and a lot of us are, like maybe from returns or one we just forgot about, if you want to use them, I would encourage you to use them sooner rather than later, because many of my clients, myself included, are sitting on hundreds of dollars worth of retail gift cards that are now unfortunately worthless. Like, we're seeing companies closing left and right, and so that could happen to your gift card. So we're going into Father's Day and different holidays. If you're looking to give a gift and you don't want to do that, maybe consider literally just sending them cash through one of these cashless programs, or sending them a Visa or MasterCard gift card that gives them more flexibility, so that they'll be able to retain those monies.
Excellent. It's such great advice every single week when you're on here, Winnie. Really, really appreciate it. And I want to encourage everybody, winniesun.com, of course, Sun Group Wealth Partners. Follow Winnie. She's always got great advice for you. She goes live as well with all of her programming, so follow along. Winnie, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Greg. Really appreciate you, and see you soon.
Yep, sounds great. Winnie Sun right here always has such good advice, and she makes it simple enough so that we can all understand too and really grasp all these concepts. It's a lot of stuff happening, and she can make it easy. All right, we've got more coming up though. So here's what's happening on Digital Trends Live. Up next, we have our Who's Got Games segment with Full Screen, where this week we've got Will Power, who is just positive and uplifting. So we're going to be talking to him about his new website launch, his new album that's coming out, his new songs. So that's all happening next. So stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and yes, it's time for another segment of Who's Got Game, where we partner with Fullscreen to talk to amazing creators and talented people about what they do and hear their stories. And that's what we're doing right now. We're joined by the incredibly upbeat, positive Will Power, who is here with us. Will, I know you've got your EP coming out. We're going to talk about that. But first off,
Yes.
Thanks for being here with us today.
Man, thank you for having me. I really appreciate this a lot, man.
I want everybody to know a little bit more about you in case they don't already. And just some of the stuff that you do is just you find a way to stay positive and a way to actually encourage people. But for you yourself, like, how did you get your start in this? What made you decide, like, okay, I want to start getting on YouTube, I want to start creating, I want to start talking to people to try to encourage them to follow their dreams?
Wow. Well, it's crazy. I started at around 12 years old. You know, I joined YouTube in 2010, and I was at that point, you know, I was pretty bored at home, and I was watching a lot of YouTubers already, you know, the ones that were really big at the time, and I was inspired by Ryan Higa, who did skits and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I kind of want to do something because I have all these ideas creatively, and YouTube seemed like the only way for me to, you know, broadcast that. So I pretty much started YouTube videos where I I did like self-help stuff. I did guides and everything. And then in 2015, after 5 years of doing YouTube, I pretty much, you know, during the summer, I blew up, you know, doing gaming stuff. And then from 2015, 2016, 2017, it was gaming and, you know, other stuff. But, you know, my passions kind of grew as I got older. So I pretty much, you know, transitioned into skits, music. And now I'm really focused on the music. Because it's really hard to do many things at once and be good at all of those things, you know, so you kind of have to like channel your focus.
Yeah, and you do. I mean, you're doing like so many different things at once, or that you have done too with that. And I want to talk about a couple of things. I've got some questions for you, but I also wanted to ask about some of your catchphrases because they're so good. The one I want to say here, where there's a will, there's a way, and there's always a way with willpower. Dude, I mean, that's just marketing genius. What are some of your other favorite ones that you've got?
Man, my other favorite one is a lyric that I have in the song that's coming out in one of my EPs. It's, if not me, who? If not now, when? Which is not a saying that I created, but I think it's very powerful. It's simple, and it basically lets people know that, like, if you have something in mind, you have goals, you know, you're the only person who can do it the way you can do it, you know, because you can't be comparing yourself to others. But if you like focus on what you do, then you'll pretty much see that like no one can really do it like you because there's nobody else like you. So if not me, who? If not now, when? Is like another powerful one that, you know, I'm gonna slowly implement, you know, soon. But yeah, that's the new one I'm gonna start saying, you know, more than where there's a will, there's a way, because I don't want to like bore people with the same catchphrases over and over. Yeah.
Well, and you keep it interesting with all that, with all the different things that you're doing, and looking at things like right now, where people need, you know, somebody to encourage and positive, like for everybody out there who's going through all kinds of things. There's so much that's happening in the world right now, and to have something to go to that's both entertaining and empowering, I think is really important. And for you, you know, what have you been telling your fans? What have you been telling people right now as people struggle and get through what's happening right now?
Well, I just recently had this long video where I was basically talking about struggle itself, because a lot of people, you know, when extremely, you know, I guess in this case, extremely unexpected occurrences happen, they sometimes, you know, like they give up, or they're like, you know, they doubt themselves. But I wanted to encourage people that you need to struggle in order to, you know, build character. It builds strength, it builds wisdom. And when you come out of it, you're usually a better version than yourself had you not struggled. So that's why I try to tell people, you know, struggle's a good thing, but, you know, a lot of people, they seem to run. But, you know, that's why I feel like I can be here to let people know that struggling is okay, because once you come out of it, you're going to be a better version than yourself. So you can't really win without losing, and you can't really grow without struggling.
You're already doing it. Like right there, there's another catchphrase just at the end of that. I mean, let's talk about the music. So coming out, I believe it's Friday is when this comes out. Tell us about the EP, what's involved in it, what inspired you to do this?
Well, I've been working on this for many, many years, and a lot of people, I guess fans kind of gave up because I announced this like 2016, and then I didn't release it in 2016. 2017, it didn't come out. 2018, 2019, and 2020. You know, we're here in 2020, and it's finally ready to be released. So, you know, I feel like it's a long time coming, and I got inspired just by the songs that play in my head, you know, because I have a lot of ideas musically. They always play. It's like my brain's a radio, you know, so it just pick and choose certain songs, and it was hard to, you know, zero in on just 6 songs, but I think this is a good, you know, mix of tracks that, you know, are also pertinent to what's going on today. You know, I have a song called Isolation, which I feel is perfect for the times, which I wrote a few years ago, but now is the perfect time to have a song about, you know, isolation and being isolated during these times. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then there's a few other songs about, you know, self-growth and then love and stuff like that, but the title Closer pertains to, you know, getting closer to different aspects in life, you know, your goals, getting closer to a loved one, and etc.
With this coming out, it's going to be on all streaming services too. I want to make sure people know that. So that's coming out this Friday. Yes. And you've got the 6 songs on there. When somebody listens to it, what do you want somebody to take away from it, from listening to your EP?
Ooh, that's a good question. I just want them to feel, first of all, I want them to really feel that I put, you know, a lot of different things into it, like musically that, you know, is kind of unique, but I also want them to feel like it's something that, you know, they can't necessarily find elsewhere, because, you know, as I study different artists, I was like, man, feels like everything that's been said has been, you know, it's in music. So I'm like, what can I do to be, you know, original, but also authentic? So I wanted to write life, basically, you know, write real life scenarios and tell stories that are hopefully engaging, but also very catchy. So that's pretty much what I want, you know, people to feel while they listen to it. And the album, well, the EP is pretty much very diverse musically, because there's like hip hop, and then there's R&B, and then there's reggaeton, Latin pop, and pop, because I wanted to, you know, show right off the bat that I can do different styles, and I don't want it to, you know, be exactly in one box, you know, especially in the first EP, you know.
That's great. So different styles. I mean, it's just like you're not in one box, you're doing all kinds of different things. So that makes sense that the EP would be that too. Something I got to ask here just before we wrap up, because I know you've interviewed Daniel Bryan. You've probably interviewed other WWE stars.
Yes.
Who is your favorite wrestler of all time?
The Rock, easily. Yeah. And then Stone Cold second.
That's a pretty solid answer.
Yes.
Wait, who was second?
The Stone Cold Steve Austin second.
Okay, well, you've got that already figured out. So The Rock, Stone Cold, good ones. I go with Macho Man. That's still my favorite, but
he's a legend.
You know, it's all fun.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, he's still in there. All right, Will. One other question I want to ask too. Just when it comes to gaming, what are you playing right now?
Gaming, I'm not really playing as much right now, but when I get back to you know, my free time, then I'm gonna, you know, start playing a lot of like Call of Duty and then NBA 2K, and I might return in WWE, but you know, let's just keep that under wraps for now.
All right, there it is. There's the tease. Well, when that happens, you got to let us know. Well, Willpower, new EP coming out this week, and we've got the website too, official Willpower. I didn't want to neglect that, so tell everybody what they can get at the website.
Oh, well, that's something I'm actually announcing later today, which is, I completely forgot about that. So thanks for reminding me. I have my official website that's coming in later today. So yeah, that's something I'm going to announce really soon. So over there, they can, you know, catch up with everything.
Nice. So official Willpower coming out later today. Well, awesome. Well,
.com.
Will, thank you for being here on the show. I really, really appreciate it. You're awesome, and good luck on everything that you've got going on, and thanks for doing what you do, and thanks for being here on Digital Trends Live today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Willpower right there. That guy's cool. So follow along with everything that he is doing. And I want to say thank you to everybody who's been joining us here on Digital Trends Live. We're here every single weekday bringing you those tech headlines and news, but also entertainment, and it's a broad spectrum of things that we talk about here on the show. And so thank you for being a part of our conversations that we get to have. And I want to tell you about tomorrow. So we've got Julia Collins, who's the co-founder of Zoom Pizza, which is the robot-making pizza company. And she's now the founder and CEO of Planet FWD, which is a company on a mission to tackle climate change by expanding regenerative agriculture adoption. So that's a lot to talk about right there. And she's also going to give advice on how all people, especially those building companies, can be actively anti-racist. Very important conversation right there that's happening tomorrow on this show. So you want to be here for that. You want to hit subscribe on whatever platform you're watching, that way you can be a part of it. You can share the show. You can join in this. Let us know your thoughts, your feelings, your questions, your comments, whatever it is, whatever platform you're watching. And thank you for being a part of this. We appreciate it. I'm Greg Nibbler. I'll be right back here tomorrow with another edition of Digital Trends Live.